Alright, hello everybody. Today we're going to be doing a vinyl record collection video, briefly going over some of the records that I've accumulated over the years. I don't have the biggest record collection in the world. I only have like 35 or so records, but you know, it's not about the size of the wave, it's about the motion of the ocean. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into the first record. I'll put all of these records in alphabetical order in the description too, so you can jump to any particular letter that you may want to see, I don't know. But the first record we have is Abyss Kiss by Adrian Lanker. Adrian Lanker is the lead singer of the band Big Thief. One of my favorite artists of all time. Her solo stuff is just fantastic as well. So if you've never checked out Adrian Lanker, you really should. And I got this one from Bandbox Vinyl, and it's like an ash gray kind of thing. Looks really cool. Or it's actually greenish. It just looks gray on the camera. Yeah, it's like green. I don't think you can really tell. I get a lot of my stuff from Bandbox Vinyl just because they put out a lot of records that I already like, and they have cool editions of those records. If there's a record that I particularly love, and they have like a cool color of it, I'm just a sucker for that. Next up, we have Once Twice Melody from Beach House. I love Beach House, and this was one of my favorite records of last year. If you watched my 2022 favorite albums video, this was in the top 10. This is actually the only Beach House record I own, but I would love to get more in the future. Next up, we have Masterpiece by Big Thief. This is Big Thief's first record. This was given to me as a gift, but it's damaged, so it's like unplayable, unfortunately. So I'll have to replace this at some point, but love this record so much. I also have Capacity by Big Thief. This is my favorite Big Thief record. So beautiful. This was the first Big Thief record I had ever heard, and it is just full of some of the most powerful, intimate songwriting. It feels like a diary. Love both of these records so much. Oh, this one actually is a gatefold. Oh, it's just the lyrics. There you go. I'm just going to take the headphones off because they're not helping, and my hair has never looked good in any single video that I've ever done. All right, next we have Black Country New Road for the first time. Black Country New Road is my favorite band working today. One of my favorite bands of all time, and this is their debut record, and it's so awesome. It's this 6-track post-punk record with klezmer influence on it. There's saxophone, violin, piano, guitars, bass. It's just this awesome, edgy kind of masterpiece with spoken word vocals. And of course, I also have their follow-up record, Ants from Up There. One of my favorite records of all time, of course, as well. And yeah, this was, if you watched my favorite albums of 2022 video, you'll know this is my favorite record of 2022, as For the First Time was my favorite record of 2021. They just keep releasing incredible records. I didn't get the deluxe version when it came out because I was like, oh, it just has some songs from the first record, and I'm going to get the first record anyway, so I don't need to get the deluxe version. That was so stupid. I should have gotten the deluxe version. It was just expensive, and I don't know. I should have just gotten it, but anyway, this is inside. Then we have Black Midi, Hellfire. This is the only Black Midi record I have on vinyl, but I would definitely get Schlagenheim when I get the chance. This record has it's like a Hellfire Red. I had to get this as soon as I saw it, because I think this was like a limited edition red pressing. Also on my 2022 favorite albums video. Then we've got a classic record. We have David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Not much to say about this. It's just one of the best albums ever made. A classic rock album that actually holds up incredibly well. This one was a blunder on my part. I thought this was just a cool limited edition alternate cover of I'm Wide Awake It's Morning by Bright Eyes, which is one of my favorite albums. But no, it says a companion. So I think these are re-recorded versions of some of the songs on I'm Wide Awake It's Morning, but it is not the entire original record. It's just a companion piece to the original record. So that is pretty disappointing. Whatever. I'm not going to return it. I'm just going to keep it. Then we have Built to Spill, Perfect From Now On. Built to Spill is one of my favorite 90s bands. My favorite record of theirs is Keep It Like a Secret, but this is a fantastic record as well. This is my second favorite. It's very large and conceptual. There are really long songs on here. Built to Spill has some of my favorite guitar tones in all of music. Then we have a couple records from the Decemberists. This one is Castaways and Cutouts. I almost forgot the name. It's not on here. Castaways and Cutouts. This is their second record. One of my personal favorite Decemberist records. If you haven't listened to the Decemberists, they're kind of like, I don't know what a good comparison would be. I guess they're kind of like the Mountain Goats, or I guess maybe like AJJ, but I don't really like AJJ very much. It's kind of like Pine Grove. These are kind of loose comparisons. They're very much their own thing, especially this record. It feels like a seafaring kind of record. They're kind of Smiths inspired, and just inspired by, old seafaring tunes and folk music. Oh, this one is colored, I think. Oh, it's like an orangey gold kind of color. Then we have another Decemberist record. This is What a Terrible World, What a Beautiful World. This was their second to last record that they've released so far. This is such an underrated Decemberist record. Probably, I would say, the most underrated among the fan base, because, yeah, it's not the most original sound. It kind of goes away from a lot of the sound that people, hopped on board to Decemberist for. It's not as weird as their older records, obviously, but it's fantastic. There's some great songwriting on here. It's more conventional than you might be used to if you're a fan of the band, but I like it, especially the last 2 tracks. Then we've got an album that means so much to me. This is Fleet Foxes' self-titled record. When I was in high school, I didn't listen to a lot of music. This record in particular, or Fleet Foxes in general, got me out of just a listening slump of... I couldn't find a lot of music in popular music that spoke to me in any way. All of it just kind of felt dull, and none of it did anything for me. And then I stumbled across Fleet Foxes, and I was like, that's what I'm missing. Like, I need some authenticity and some heart. This just broke that barrier for me. So, really important record to me. If you haven't listened to Fleet Foxes, you gotta listen to Fleet Foxes. Yeah, one of the best folk acts out today, and they have been for some time now. That record, and then probably my favorite Fleet Foxes record, Helplessness Blues. This was the first vinyl I ever owned. Boom. So great. If you're gonna start with a Fleet Foxes record, start with the first 2. I mean, this one is my personal favorite, but you're not going to go wrong with either of those 2. But they're all great. All right, next we have a little more recent one. This is Floating Points and Pharoah Sanders and the London Symphony Orchestra. It's called Promises. It's like it's an orchestral jazz record with some electronic stuff in there too. Amazing saxophone playing on this record. Really cool vinyl packaging. I love the stacks here, and then you open it up and it's the entire art piece. Beautiful record. It basically just flows as one piece, but there are different movements in the pieces. I mean, it's classical music, but very modern and contemplative and slow. But also there's a bit of anxiety in it. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's like music to study to, but also there's a creepy figure outside of your window. And you can't tell if it's a person or just the shadow of a tree, but it's just always in the back of your head while you're doing your homework. That's kind of what I think about when I think about this record. I love it. One of my favorite records in the last few years. We got a big one. One of my absolute favorite records of all time is Lift Your Skinny Fists Like Antennas to Heaven by Godspeed You, Black Emperor. If you have been on the internet, you've probably seen this record once in your life. It's a post-rock record. There are no vocals on it. It's sort of it sounds kind of like a movie score, but I don't really know how to describe it. It's rock music, kinda, but just distended, and it's like the epitome of post-rock music. So if you like bands like Swans. If you like Swans, you've already heard this record. This is one of my favorite album covers of all time, too. Incredible compositions. It's just 4 tracks, but again, just like the last record, there are a bunch of movements within it, and there's got a lot of darkness to it. It's fairly dark, slow music, but there's some bright spots to it as well, which I think make it unique. All right, next up we have Kids See Ghosts. This is actually the only rap album that I have on vinyl, which is unfortunate, but I got it because it was a Walmart exclusive blue vinyl. Ooh, it's not even my favorite Kanye West album, or not even really close, but I do like the artwork, and it felt significant that it was blue, and I did like it a lot when it came out. This one is Joni Mitchell, Ladies of the Canyon. I love this record. I picked it up at a record store, but it was damaged. There are a ton of skips on this thing, which is very disappointing. So I'm probably going to have to replace this one as well. I don't have blue on vinyl for some reason, but I have this one. The Mountain Goats, All Hail West Texas. This is a classic Mountain Goats record. The Mountain Goats are one of my favorite artists. I feel like I keep saying that for everybody, but it's true. I had a period of obsession with this band, with John Darnielle. I'm actually reading Devil House, which is John Darnielle's most recent novel. This one kind of has like a yellow, incredible lyricist, one of my favorite lyricists to ever walk this earth. All Hail West Texas is like a top 3 or top 5 Mountain Goats record for me. Joanna Newsom is, if you don't know who Joanna Newsom is, she is an indie folk baroque singer. She plays the harp and she sings. She has kind of a polarizing voice, but I love her music. She's, I think, one of the greatest songwriters who's ever lived. The lyric sheet is in this like storybook fashion, which is very appropriate for the music. My favorite Joanna Newsom record, Have One On Me. This is like a 2-hour long opus of a record. Again, she's playing the harp, but she's also playing a lot more piano, and her compositions are unlike anybody else that's making music. The way that it's packaged too is like they have these different stills of Joanna like getting ready, putting her hair up. Such an emotional record. Some of my favorite lyrics to ever lyric are on this album. Yeah, I'd say this is a serious contender for me for the greatest album of all time. And I mean that with no exaggeration. It could very well be the greatest record ever made, or at least that I've ever listened to. So, probably give it a listen if your taste is anything like mine. And if you don't like it initially, don't worry. It will grow on you. Now we have On Avery Island by Neutral Milk Hotel. Neutral Milk Hotel is a classic band. They only made 2 records. This is the first one. I love this artwork. Again, I'm going to sound like a brokered record because I love all these albums so much, but yeah, Neutral Milk Hotel is one of my favorite bands ever. In the Aeroplane Over the Sea, it's like an obligatory record that everyone has to have in their collection, but it also is legitimately one of my favorites, if not my favorite record of all time, like for the longest amount of time. In other words, like it's been in my life the longest and has consistently remained in that like top 5 spot. Love it so much. Pavement, Crooked Rain. Pavement's awesome. One of my favorite bands of the 90s, along with Built to Spill. I just love Stephen Malkmus's songwriting and his like very idiosyncratic delivery and his kind of dry wit, ahead of its time, but also very of the time, which is a quality I really like in a record. So it sounds like the 90s, but it's pretty universal. The Pixies, Doolittle. This is a perfect record. So ahead. Talk about ahead of its time. This is like the most ahead of its time a rock record could be. Black Francis, just an insane frontman. Inspired a lot of bands like Nirvana and Modest Mouse. I got to see them perform with Modest Mouse this year, which was a treat because I love both of those bands so much. This was like instrumental to me in deepening my music taste and my appreciation for more kind of, I guess, hardcore rock music. But this still has a lot of melody and a lot of catchiness to it as well. Then we have Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. This is my favorite Pink Floyd record, one of my favorite records ever. I actually haven't spun this one yet. I got it, I guess, fairly recently, but I've listened to it so many times that like I haven't really felt compelled to put it on the record player just yet, but I know when I do put it on, it's going to be a journey. Love it. Not much to say about it. It's Wish You Were Here. We have Rufus Wainwright's Want one of the most outrageously produced singer-songwriter records I've ever heard, because it's just so large and it feels there's just like orchestra backing it. Just this huge sound. This is also from Bandbox Vinyl. It's got this really cool bronze sheen to it. Not sheen, but color. I don't know why I'm trying to use other words. Yeah, this record's great. I talked about it in my 2022 video, not because it's a 2022 record, but because I was talking about records that I discovered in 2022, and this was one of them. So, yeah, give this a listen if you like singer-songwriter stuff. This was a gift from my roommate. This is Simon and Garfunkel, The Concert in Central Park. You know, classic. Simon and Garfunkel. Can't go wrong with Simon and Garfunkel. If you don't like Simon and Garfunkel, I think you need to check your biases at the door, okay? Because, yes, they're folk music. Yes, they inspired some people that are a little bit insufferable, but that's not their fault, man. They're just doing their thing. They're just making songs like, Bridge Over Troubled Water, one of the most insanely beautiful songs to ever exist. Either or, Elliott Smith, classic, essential record for me. Every Elliott Smith record is great. This one is probably my favorite. This one was also from Bandbox Vinyl. This was the first one that I got from them. I don't know. Oh yeah, this one is orange as well. This was like one of 200 pressings of this particular record. It's this beautiful, either orange, if you will. I want to die. If you've never listened to Elliott Smith, you probably shouldn't. Then we got a record here by Songs Ohio. Incredible alt-country band, if you can even call them that. They're basically as much rock as they are country, but The Lioness. It's kind of lo-fi. It's not really lo-fi, but it's like the singing seems like further back in the mix than it would on later records. I'd say this is one of the most powerfully melancholic albums that I've ever listened to. If you like your music sad, listen to The Lioness. Magnolia Electric Company. This is masterpiece stuff we're talking about. Like, this is just... The artwork is some of my favorite of all time. Also, the same guy that made the artwork for Lift Your Skinny Fists. There are multiple singers on this record, which is really fun. I would say their previous, or this record, which came out before this record, is more like consistent stylistically. This one's a lot more diverse and plays a lot. It's pretty experimental, I guess. Okay, now we're finishing off with some Sufjan Stevens records. This one is Greetings from Michigan, the Great Lakes State. I love Michigan. I've been there many times. And this is an album about Michigan. One of the first records that I ever bought. It's pretty beat up, but it sounds great. He was supposed to do this 50 states project where he would make a record about every state. This was his first one, and then he made one about Illinois, and then never finished the rest of the states. He made 2 great records, though. And then the other Sufjan record I have is Carrie and Lowell. This is one of the saddest records you'll ever hear in your entire life. It deals with death and grieving. Heartbreaking record. It's one that's very difficult to listen to many times. Still one of my favorite records of all time. Love it. Love it. Love it. And the last record is back there. It's a Underscores record that came out this year called Wall Socket. Love this record. It's a like hyper pop meets rock, kind of like pop punk. It's a hard album to classify in terms of genre because it just bounces all over the place. It's so creative. It is it's gonna end up on my favorite albums of 2023 list, so fair warning, this will be there. But yeah, I love this record. It's been on repeat since I first heard it. And that is all for the records. I have some CDs here that I'm going to go through quickly just to fill in some of the gaps, So you're like, "Oh, he doesn't have any Radiohead records." It's like, guys, I am a man in my 20s. I have some Radiohead albums, okay? They're just on CD. All right, so I did actually go through my CD collection the other day, but the footage was so dark, it was basically unusable. So I'm back here a couple days later, and I'm going to quickly go through my CD collection. Also, I'm filming this on my phone, so I apologize if the video quality is actually probably better. But I did actually pick up a couple more records today, so I'll go over those quickly. I got Fragile by Yes. This isn't one of my favorite albums, but it is a great prog rock album, and it was only $10, so I thought it was pretty much a no-brainer to pick this up. If you haven't heard this record, you probably know the meme song that's associated with it, and it's the first track on the album. It's a really good record. It's just not one that I listen to constantly, and I prefer Close to the Edge by Yes to this album, but it's still good. It's great, classic prog rock album, and I think prog music just sounds good on the record player. Then I also got Stevie Wonder Intervisions. Love Stevie Wonder. I've been on a big Stevie Wonder kick recently. Mostly just this album and Songs in the Key of Life. I think I prefer Songs in the Key of Life overall. At least it has most of the hits. But this album is so awesome, and it's more like dark and sort of dramatic. But yeah, Stevie Wonder Intervisions. Got this for $20. Now let's move on to some of the CDs that I got. These CDs are in no particular order. I just pulled them out of my car. First up, we have The Strokes' Is This It? Classic indie rock album. This was their debut record. Everyone knows this record, not much to say about it. It's great. Donnie Darko soundtrack. First CD I ever bought. If you haven't seen Donnie Darko, it's a good movie. Automatic for the People by R.E.M. In Rainbows, Radiohead. Told you I got Radiohead. Here it is. Modest Mouse, The Moon in Antarctica. Modest Mouse is one of my favorite bands, and this album, especially the first few tracks, just make the entire album. This one is one of the CDs that I've played the most in my car. Conor Oberst, Salutations. This was a follow-up kind of companion piece to his record Ruminations, which was originally intended to be just demos for this album, but then his label told him that he should just release the demos basically as their own album, which is what Ruminations was. This was the follow-up, a lot of the same songs, but they're just expanded with a full band. Honestly, I prefer Ruminations to this record, but also I've been holding it upside down this entire time. This is still really good. And I like the newer tracks that they add on. Conor Oberst is the lead singer of the band Bright Eyes, and he is also in a band with Phoebe Bridgers called Better Oblivion Community Center, in case you don't know. Jeff Buckley, Grace, incredible album. One of my favorite vocalists of all time. This is a compilation album for the band Carissa's Weird. Carissa's Weird is a slowcore, sad band. Their big album is called Songs About Leaving. It's one of my favorite albums ever. It's out of print, so, at some point, if it ever comes back into print, I'd love to get Songs About Leaving on vinyl. For now, I just have this compilation. If you want to be sad and just really wallow in your sadness, go ahead and listen to Carissa's Weird, because it'll do that for you. Echo in the Canyon, a documentary by Andrew Slater. This is from some documentary that I'm not familiar with, but it's music from and inspired by the documentary film, and it's got Tom Petty, Brian Wilson, Ringo Starr, Eric Clapton, Stephen Stills, Jackson Browne, Fiona Apple, Beck, Regina Spektor, Cat Power. Yeah, it's just a bunch of folk songs. It's folk. OK Computer by Radiohead. This is my favorite Radiohead album. I just love every single song on this thing, especially Paranoid Android, I think is my favorite Radiohead song of all time. I have I Love You Honey Bear by Father John Misty. For a while this was it was up there as my favorite album of all time. It's just such a sweet personal record. He has this very postmodern sensibility to his writing as well that's super witty and referential and self-deprecating. There's a line where it's this love song, and then he says, "Insert here a sentiment re our golden years." There's a bit of irony to everything that he does, but also a level of sincerity to it as well. And the CD packaging is really cool. It's got this pop out. And then I also have Pure Comedy by Father John Misty. This was his album that came after I Love You Honey Bear, and it's more of an existential and societal critique and satire. It's a great album. I got this Third World edition is what he calls it, this red sky, but it's usually dark blue. The vinyl packaging of this is really cool, where you can swap out the different colors of the different variants. And I wish I had the vinyl. I'll probably get it at some point. One that means a lot to me because it inspired me in my own art in many ways. Talking Heads Speaking in Tongues. Great album. Not much to say about it. It's classic. Carole King, Her Greatest Hits. Love Carole King. The Mountain Goats, Tallahassee. This is probably my favorite Mountain Goats record. It's about this fictional relationship. Who Are You Now by Madison Cunningham, one of my favorite artists at the moment. She's just very consistent, very good. Love her lyrics. I've seen her live and she's awesome. Fiona Apple's Title. This is her first album, I believe, and it's like an R&B / singer-songwriter record. I can't see anyone not enjoying this. It's more accessible for Fiona Apple, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. She does a great job on this. And then I think the last one I have here is Bright Eyes, Lifted, or The Story is in the Soil, Keep Your Ear to the Ground. One of my favorite Bright Eyes records. It's very sprawling, it's sad, it's pretty existential, but has this grandiose kind of quality to it. I could see people listening to this today and thinking that it was kind of cringe, but there's just something so charming about it, and how much he commits to it, and how much the whole band really commits to it, that really sells it for me. I love Bright Eyes. I have a soft spot for Bright Eyes. So. And that is everything that I have in my vinyl collection and my CD collection. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. And yeah, let me know, berate me for, what I'm missing in my vinyl collection. Notably, I'd like to have Talk Talk's Laughing Stock. I definitely need to get some more hip hop records for sure. I did see King Ghidorah at the record store today, and it was like $40. And I thought about it for a second. I just can't be doing that. That hopefully gives you at least a little bit of a sample of my music taste. I should have another book video coming out relatively soon. I'm gonna leave it here. Thank you for watching.